Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, do I feel dreadful this morning. When I wake up in the morning, all I want to do is not be awake. I don't want to watch TV. I don't want to eat. If I do, generally want coffee if I have to get out of bed, but I much prefer being asleep. But anyways, the point of this is, and found a little short clip on here, 3 minutes and 34 seconds, that encapsulates all you need to know about benzodiazepines and benzodiazepine withdrawal. These are things that took me forever to figure out. So, being a kind hearted, generous soul, I thought I would post a link to that for people. And I'm like, it made me mad. It actually made me mad. It's like, because I've had people tell me, like, I'm tired. I had one guy in particular, that was probably trolling me, but he was like, you should be off of this stuff by now. And if you want to take benzos, just take benzos. But, I'm just tired of seeing you on here. And then you got this Heather Ashton person whose experience is the most vast. They have a manual named after her, saying explicitly that not only do people move at their own pace getting off benzodiazepines, but the events in a person's life also have to figure into it. The conditions in a person's life. And you get these random people pop on here like criticizing you for taking too long to get off of benzos. And the events of my life. Forget all that. I got an autonomic disease. That should be my get out of jail free card about putting a time limit on how long it takes me to do this. But yeah, that really makes me angry when people do that shit. They just think it's a goof or yeah, just a little fun trolling people that are in crisis and stuff. That are in crisis and stuff. I just woke up. That are in crisis or that are having like a difficult time or that have like mental issues, for instance. I of course I have mental issues. I've been called mental, which was what people called crazy people. And my day, it was like, you're kind of mental, aren't you? And I also saw after that a really cool analysis of the Joker about the shadow self that I'm also going to put up. But the main thing is the benzo thing because anybody trying to quit or just deal with being on benzos, that's like what it's like asking Michael Jordan about basketball. That's where you go. That's she's the one. Yeah, yesterday was weird because, like I said, um, I've always been considered uh, either intelligent or above average. I never took a huge amount of pride and never capitalized on that in any way, except for in interpersonal relationships. But I scared the shit. I had no idea, but I scared the shit out of that. What do you call him? Case manager from CareSource. Remember I said the case manager from CareSource was like um, trying to override me, and like I'm like, look, you know, it's not the agency that's not doing the work. She wanted to be here and yell at the agency, and she said that doesn't matter. We're the people that hired that agency, and they're not doing their work. And she wanted to come here and like just this random person who, by the way, mother just died, and who just had an uncle die, like literally 2 days ago. And she wants to come there and chew her out. And, over like her agency. Because I knew that's what was going to happen. She says, I want to be there when she's there, because she's a care source manager, and care source hires these people. And it's their job to make sure that your house is clean. And I'm like, look, I tell them not to clean. And it's like, it's me, it's not them. Like these people, and I asked specifically what they got paid. They get paid $10.99 an hour. That's not even minimum wage, And you got this person here, nice person, got 2 deaths in the family. I don't know when her mother died or how recent that was, but if I remember correctly, it was fairly recently. But I know her uncle just died 2 days ago, because she told me that day, and she wants to go there and like ruin her day. So I used my above average intelligence. I like to use my forces for good, or use my powers for good. I shouldn't get on here when I first wake up. So like I was like, remember when we were talking about how you take Xanax occasionally? As soon as I said that sentence, everything changed. Yesterday she come over for her visit. There was not one mention of the house and whether it was in order or disarray. There was not one mention of the agency. There was not one mention of benzodiazepines in any way, shape, or form. It's like everything changed, So I was like, she was walking on eggshells. So I'm like, somebody's getting somebody else's prescription, or maybe buying them. Somebody's being a bad little girl. But I feel good. Obviously, I feel good about that. But you ain't holding that fucking psychodrama in my house. I mean, you ain't chewing out this person that's only been in my house twice anyway, is not responsible in any way, shape, or form for the utter disarray that my house is in, when they just had fresh deaths in their family. Okay? Yes, it sounds like I'm white knighting myself, but I'm just giving you the facts. Like, also, a thing that I didn't mention was I have that nanny plumber cam where I'm filming the landlord without his permission. When I move out from here, one of the things I'm going to spray paint on the wall is like, watch this. And I'm going to have an arrow pointing toward a disc on the wall. And then I'm going to write, maybe this is you, in case you can't open it. Maybe this can be found on YouTube under the title blah 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 or whatever, and let him know that I filmed him without his knowledge. Now, if you're a bad person, that is a terrifying thought. If you filmed me without my knowledge, you would probably see somebody with some pretty nasty personal habits. And I'd be like, oh man. But if you're a person who's an evil person, that's a horrifying thought. So I had a plan worked out in my head where like I was just going to tape, random things to the wall. And that's going to be one of them. It's like, I filmed you breaking OSHA rules. Because, they're laughing about it. I don't think OSHA would approve of this. And all it was, you're not supposed to stand on the top rung of a ladder or whatever, but they're like mocking OSHA. And I don't know much about the workplace, but OSHA, um, yeah, pretty sure it's like human resources in offices as far as construction and whatnot. So I got him on video breaking OSHA rules, and I'm going to make sure that, you know, um, I'll let him know that I filmed him and he had no idea I was filming him. And I know neither one of them guys had any idea I was filming them because they're idiots. But yeah. Oh my. Whew. But I was thinking about like the little nuances in the last video I made about like the way people want to always like mess with your right to your own feelings. They want to mess with your autonomy in some way, and it's always about control. I mean, I would say I always used to say this anyway. It's like that's what like 95% of life is about. Is like who's in control. I mean, like take the situation with the caseworker. The caseworker wanted control of the situation. She wanted to be there when she wanted to be there. She wasn't listening to what I was saying. And then she decides that, oh, okay, I don't need control because this guy's bringing up Xanax use. And then everything changed, and then she didn't want to talk about that no more. There was no mention. I mean, she's in my house, and she did not walk through my house and do a walkthrough. She didn't do nothing. She was polite as peach. And yeah, and that's what people do when they're like do the justice slumlord thing, or like they play that devil's advocate thing. Is they're just fucking with you, and like gaslighting your emotions, like trying to invalidate what you feel. It's like, do not play with my emotions. Yeah. I don't let people get away with that kind of shit. I don't care who they are. You'll find that with people trying to manipulate you all the time. Like, even people that have absolutely no right to, like the drunk guy where he's like, thank you, being sarcastic. Or like they try to play on your emotions. Or, in a really interesting twist, like try to accuse you of playing on their emotions. Because I remember like with my sister when I was having my breakdown, she was like accusing me of playing the martyr while I was having a breakdown, like I'm trying to play on her emotions. And it's like, no, I'm kind of like just flailing around asking for help, and you're accusing me of things. So yeah, I'm not a person that doesn't cry for like 29 years. They're probably not playing the martyr if they're crying in front of you. If you have like pretty much weekly contact with them, sometimes 2 and 3 times a week you have contact with them, and you don't hear them cry for 29 years, and then they're crying. You they're probably not playing the martyr type of people. I've never done that shit anyway, because I mean I've had this CRPS thing, you know, and what a perfect vehicle for playing the martyr. I made a joke about it once though. I was in a psychiatric unit when I was in my 20s, and somebody in that place was, that was the Cleveland Pain Clinic, but somebody in that place was like accusing me of playing uh, like the Jesus Christ or the martyr role, and I said, well, I got the crown of thorns scars, because I got the halo traction screws. I got the sword in the side because I got the thoracotomy scar right here, which you probably can't see. So I got this, or it was spear in the side. I got the halo marks. She just got this disturbed look on her face, you know, because I just threw it back at her. But yeah, psychologically, I'm really not someone you want to fuck with. Not, I'm no great fighter or anything like that. I just have a bad temper. I was raised around violence, but psychologically, you don't want to fuck with me. I had do that debate thing about the most volatile subject in the world, um, atheism and theism, for years. I'd be nice about it. I squash people like a bug, and I was, especially would get under my skin would be like atheists that were patronizing or looking down on theists for wish fulfillment type thinking, and I would do some nasty things rhetorically to them. But while being bright and I guess linguistically gifted and very good at logic and abstract reasoning, I also saw how entirely worthless they were in the world, generally speaking. They're pretty good for keeping your sanity and being around damaged people, even though being around damaged people will always have an effect on you and not a positive effect. I mean, but I can see through it. Like, even small things I can see through pretty quick. Like the conversation I had the other night where the guy was like trying to minimize my hatred because he was uncomfortable with the level of hatred I was expressing. You know, he's trying to help me out. It's like, man, there's some altruism in the world, you know, and there's some giving, but mostly things are about you, okay? That's what you care about is you. Everybody cares about themselves. Like that Sesame Street song, I'm the most important person in the whole wide world. It's you, and you hardly even know you. You know, that's how people function. So, like, if um, I made a video that just said, oh, you can just look through my videos. And you can see the ones that are like just about benzos or just about benzo withdrawal. They're going to have more views because that's somebody searching for help to deal with what their deal is. They don't give a damn about except for you few loyal listeners, give a damn about me. I mean, come on now, let's be serious. And even like some of the loyal listeners would be like, this guy's pretty good for killing some of my time. Man, this guy knows how to kill some time. Or he's verbally unpredictable, is what my social worker guy who was here yesterday after the cowed Xanax taking case manager shooed. Because I said, man, you, because he plays guitar and I play guitar, and I'm like, I'm a left-handed guitarist, so entering a guitar store for me is like a straight guy entering a gay bar. He just burst out laughing. He said, I didn't expect you to say that. And I'm like, yeah, that's what makes me interesting to talk to. Unpredictability. And that's why I value spontaneity, is because things go where they go. If you want to tie that in with the Joker thing, I am an agent of chaos. Not really. I'm just some sick dude trying to survive, trying to get out of here. But verbally, I am an agent of chaos. I am the guy who made up the. See, even I care about myself, and I'm willing to admit it more than I care about you. It's like, see, I'm talking. What am I talking about? I'm talking about my own cleverness. Um, yeah, as far as like linguistic chaos, how about that thing where a version of hell is like a guy that's always hated barbecues and being social and mingling, and at a barbecue, but he get the pain and torture of being carved up into steaks and eaten at a barbecue with all the banal, stupid conversation that occurs in those social situations that you've hated your whole life. But not only are you subjected to being at a barbecue every day as your punishment for being an evil person while you're in hell, but you are consumed and then reassembled for the next day. Which reminds me of a joke. And, okay, there's a guy gets sentenced to hell. He's walking along with the devil, and he said, "You weren't that bad of a guy, so, you know, your punishment, uh, we may be devils and whatnot down here, but the punishment uh, that we weigh out, you know, Hitler doesn't get punished the same way as Joe Blow on the street. That's just your average bad guy. So you're like more in the Joe Blow category." So he's like, "Okay, you have three choices." And he goes into one. He looks at one door. He looks through one door window, and he says he sees a bunch of people drinking coffee, and they're standing in shit up to their chest. And he quickly goes to the next door, and he sees people drinking coffee, and the shit's up to their waist. He goes to the third door, and the shit's up to only up to their ankles. And the devil says, "Choose." And he says, "Well, of course I'm going to choose the one with the people with it only up to their ankles." And then the devil says, "Okay," puts them in the room and says, "Coffee break's over. Back on your heads." It's a pretty obvious joke, so I tried to tell it quickly, except for the opening bit. You know, I didn't want you to get there before me if you didn't hear the joke before. Now it's 9:12. I woke up at about 8:30, and saw that video, and I was like, "Son of a bitch!" You know, it's like all that stuff that took me all that time to learn, and there's like a 3-minute video, so it's literally like 3 minutes and 34 seconds. And yeah, I mean, I read the Ashton manual, so I knew some of it, but reading a manual that's yay thick and really all you need to know is in that 3 minutes and 34 seconds about how to quit benzos. And about thing that really got me is like where she was saying, you know, the events in your life in the life of the patient have to be considered. Their circumstances have to be considered. Each person is an individual. Each person has their own pace. Um, the best results are always when the patient has control of the taper. None of this stuff, you know, I had no control over my taper. Many people that were out there with benzos, they live in fear like I did of being dropped off until I talked to my doctor Because, after you get reduced 50% and thrown into tolerance withdrawal, you're not too anxious to broach the subject with the guy at all. Because you're like, what's this, talk about an agent of chaos, or having your life thrown into chaos. Benzos are an agent of chaos if you get reduced 50% on them. And suddenly your life is turned into some kind of nightmare you never even dreamed was possible. And so it took me maybe like 2 months before I was like found a way to communicate with the guy, and I see if I can call it up from memory what I said to him. Oh yeah, I said, look, we both know I have anxiety, right? He's like, yeah. He said, I said, one of the things with people with anxiety that makes their anxiety worse is not knowing what's going to happen in the future. Would you agree? Yeah. And I said, so I'd like to know what the plan is here. I'd like to know, like, what are we doing with this benzo situation? And I had tried to, my doctor's kind of thick sometimes, so I tried other techniques, and I was like, that worked. He's like, then he was like, I'll never drop you complete off of benzos completely. Never trusted him because, he might forget that he said that. He once asked me how my Ativan use was coming. So, but it was comforting to hear. But then again, suppose he's like, I'll never drop you off completely, but I might only give you 15 pills instead of 30 pills a month. How about let me control the taper? I mean, if a person doesn't want to quit and they have like I'm not a street person, but I don't have a whole lot of connections. I just have some. They'll just go out and control their own taper anyway. What I couldn't get, which was what I needed, was volume. Because Xanax, I don't know how possible it is if you're, it affects people different. Like the 3 minute, 34-second thing says, everybody is different. So some people maybe can taper off of Xanax without being put on a lesser benzo. I wasn't one of those people, partly due to life circumstances. And it seemed like it at first because I was like, okay, I dropped from a milligram to a quarter milligram, like pretty damn quick. I mean, I'd have to look back, but it was mere weeks. And I'm like, I was expecting, there's even like videos on here where I was like, oh, I'm not expecting to be off of these things in probably 2 months tops, 3 months, something like that. But then there's life circumstances to consider. There was the fact that I had oral surgery waiting for me. There's the fact that I have a difficult family. There's the fact that I have CRPS. There's all these other factors to consider, which doctors don't take into account. They think of people as like a cookie cutter. Like what works for this guy will work for this guy. There can be no other explanation for that kind of behavior. Like, oh, you'll be all right. Now maybe he was waiting for feedback from me, but then he saw me. That's what I thought. I was like, well, maybe he's waiting for feedback from me to go in there and be like, look, man, I'm losing my goddamn mind. But I went back in there and I was all messed up, and he was like, no, we'll keep you at 50% reduction. Because I was like, I went in there and I asked, I was like, I'm miserable like this. He was like, oh, you'll adjust. He's like minimizing it. And I'm not real demonstrative with my suffering, as I've said many times. When I was in full benzo withdrawal in January of 2018, my best friend showed up with my pills in the middle of winter when the weather was horrible outside, and I hadn't had them for 50 hours, so I was in full, freak out. And I'm like, what do I look like? Do I look as bad as I feel? He goes, not really. you know. And I had spent the whole night just like this, just kind of like concentrating, don't freak out. I'd been up all night, of course, and withdrawal, cold turkey withdrawal. It's like, don't freak out. You got that heart thing. You got a bad heart. You don't want to get your heart kicking. You don't. Just stay zen. Just stay calm. Just, what you're feeling is what people feel when they go through this kind of thing. Things look weird around the room. The big eyes thing doesn't really work with the glasses on. Things look really weird around the room, and you feel really weird. And you're watching episodes of Hee Haw with, why are you doing that? You're like, that wasn't when I looked at my hand, and it wasn't my hand, you know. I didn't have depersonalization that night, I don't think. I was very aware of myself, just very aware of everything. And I was like, I spent the night like that. And then, you know, some people will look at somebody and say, boy, you look like you had a rough night, when they come in from work. You had some fun last night or something? You get laid, spend the night fucking drinking. I spent the night like in a living hell. And my best friend, and he wasn't trying to make me feel better or anything, because he ain't that kind of guy. He's the kind of guy that, like, I'm in the middle of Lake Erie seasick, and he's like, hey man, we ain't going all the way back just to drop you off. It took us 45 minutes to get out to this part of the lake. I'm like, you don't gotta do that. But he's that kind of guy. Whereas, like, he's, from being a cop, he's got a little bit of that coldness in him, where he's like, he looked at somebody in the boat with us, and he's like, yeah, he do look a little green. Because I'm like, hey man, I don't think he's feeling too good over there. Because when something that happens to you when you get seasick is you get withdrawn. It is sort of like benzo withdrawal to me, because you kind of get withdrawn into your own little world of inner torment. And you start getting with, he was all withdrawn and quiet and inactive, and his face didn't look right. He just looked at him and said, he does look a little green. So the point being is, my friend wasn't trying to make me feel better. I'm sorry for being gross and itching my itchy ear. But he's like, so he wasn't like just trying to make me feel good or whatever, because that's not his thing. But point being is, like, I'm not demonstrative with my when I'm suffering. So even when I told my doctor that, he was like, because I was just like, how about like raising my dose a little bit, because this, I'm sick. I can't hardly eat, blah, 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 or whatever, He kind of like looked at me. Now, I don't know if he was thinking of me as a drug seeker or whatever, but you have to remember, I made that mistake of bringing an illegal pill into him and saying, here's what I've been taking. He was like, whoa, I don't know where you got that. I don't even know what the dose is on that. And so it could have been partly could have been that. Whew. The caseworker thing did not go as expected. Uh, Partly because of I am too sane, and partly because, again, I cannot impress upon people the degree of my suffering. It's just not my nature to do that. So, I'm like, I'm highly dysfunctional right now. I'm trying to tell the guy in so many words, like, look, it's nice you gave me this piece of paper. I don't know when or if I'm going to, get out of my funk. And seriously, I'm basically asking the guy, can you help me, make these calls? And can because I got other things to consider. Because if I set up an appointment to go look at, I can't just like cruise around neighborhoods with his lists of landlords that he gave me. I don't drive. I don't have any friends that drive that don't work. It's like I you know, can't do that. I mean, I can't. I can't research places. I can't, like, if I set up an appointment with, like, the landlord showing me the property and whatnot. I mean, it's a pain in the ass not being able to drive. So, yeah, maybe that'll work out or whatever. I'm thinking, like, that's another reason because of my circumstances. I really felt lucky when I moved in here because it was perfect. And it's like I nailed it. I think this might have even been the first place that I saw. But, I was like, I looked at the address. I think I did it through the newspaper. I looked at the classifieds. And I'm like, okay, the address is right next to my foster brother's house. So I have family in the area. And so I could ask my foster brother to pick me up from this place. And I had to move out of this place like post haste that I was living in. Like I had to move out of there fast. And I had to come up with a place fast. And I just like, man, did I get lucky. There's nobody living in this building. And this is the nicest apartment that I've ever had. It has a backyard. It has tons of greenery and trees for oxygen and all that healthy stuff. It has a place I can sit in the sun in the back. And then there's even a stream within view that runs through to a park, and it has like a park that you can walk to with a walking path and everything. That's when I could walk when I moved in here. So I just got lucky. And then I got really unlucky when Gerald Miller bought the building. But yeah, I'm thinking like, because I can't really shop around, I don't have anybody. Um, yeah, I'm like kicking a lot of these people to the curb just because of their unreliability or because of their downright abuse of me. It's like I don't really have anybody, and I really didn't get to that point. How do you how do you behave like a what's a normal human being do? I mean, are they like, listen, I can't do this by myself. I need help. I mean, I don't have anybody to drive me around. That's what I need is I need somebody to help me with this because like I've been sick for a month, and before I was sick for a month, I had 6 teeth pulled out. Before that, this happened. Before that, I'm fighting roaches. I mean, it's just like one thing after another. What do I do? I need help. Please help me. I can't do that. I'm not built that way. I mean, I do I have to go into Meryl Streep mode? you know, it's not a simple thing when you can barely walk and you can't drive. It's not a simple thing to go apartment shopping. I'm thinking like, find the first suitable place and just get the fuck out of here. But it's very clear to me that this isn't a doable living here. I don't know. I'm paid up through January, and as far as moving, mm, like I said, I'm gonna leave most stuff here. I can make moving easier that way and just start over and take the financial loss because I got guaranteed income. It's not much, but I won't have to worry. If I have to rebuy things, or if I have to lose the motor scooter over there that's worth $2,000 to $2,300, it accelerates like a madman. I can't ride the fucking thing anyway. Um, you know, Finding a situation also that doesn't have steps, that's like first floor, would be ideal since I got problems with my knee, which should have been fixed a long time ago. I mean, my life's just like one problem after another, and I only share some of that on here because of my Victorian sensibilities. Um, I don't, I heard a guy on here that was a benzo guy talking about an anal cyst or something like that. And I was like, I gave him a thumbs up for talking about it, but I didn't sit through it. I want to hear about that. I want to put that in a video. I mean, that's just not me. Those kind of issues. I'll mention mention them in one video, maybe. Or I mentioned a couple of my physical ailments in like one video, but I'm not going to dwell on it. That's all how I've always dealt. That's part of my problem. That's always how I've always dealt with CRPS, is to try to be as I'm just a regular dude, you know. I didn't look for any special treatment or anything, and I'm just like anybody else. And then, like, as far as the way I acted on the street, it's like definitely you don't want to act like you're messed up on the street. I acted like, hey man, go ahead and come and fuck with me. I'd be walking down the street by myself at all hours of the night, 1, 2, 3 in the morning. If I felt like walking, I was walking. I didn't care. I didn't live in a good neighborhood either. But yeah. Anyways, the part where I interrupted myself with my desultoriness, my garrulousness, my improper use of multisyllabic, polysyllabic nonsense, was that guy got called away in the middle of his appointment by somebody threatening to commit suicide. So he's like, I gotta go. He was like irritated, because I was making him laugh, and he was like, you're one of my more enjoyable clients I have to deal with. Before that, then he gets a call where a guy's threatening suicide, and he was irritated by it. He was openly irritated by it, rather than being like, oh my God, this guy's threatening to commit suicide. It's like man, I gotta go. So I didn't get a full appointment out of him anyway. So I I wasn't necessarily working up to the point where I was like, I did say shit. I did say, look, like, I'm pretty dysfunctional right now. Like, I was like, I can make calls to like doctor's office and stuff, but I don't know about this whole moving stuff. I said, I find the whole idea like a bit daunting. And he's like, how long you been living here? And I'm like, I've been living here for 10 years. I've only moved like 4 or 5 times in my whole life. And it's like, it's kind of hard for me to comprehend. So I was working up toward, just begging for help, I guess. I don't know what you would call it. Like, I like to do stuff myself and be as independent as possible, of course, because, what did I say earlier? Like, people like power like a whole lot. And life is about power, it seems, to a large degree, to the majority of the people in the world. They will try to control you. They will try to tell you what to feel, try to tell you what's acceptable to say, what's acceptable to do, how to behave. I've had people tell me, put a shirt on, sit up. And like, I had people come on videos of mine and say like, oh, just what I need, benzo advice from some guy laying in bed. Or what was the exact thing he said? The last person I want to take advice from about benzos is somebody laying in bed and or crying. And I don't know which. I know which video that's posted on. That was posted on JJ's benzo withdrawal advice. And I'm like, is your name JJ? Are you special? Did you eat a lot of paint chips when you were a kid? Be honest. But maybe they just glossed over, read the title and didn't watch the video, which is probably what they did. They're just trolling, and thought that I was JJ. No, I was speaking to somebody named JJ. and that was advice tailored toward them. That was a gesture of kindness, um, because they were in a bad situation and they were alone, like me, and a lot of people can't handle suffering alone. What that guy say to me? He paid me some compliment yesterday. He was like, "Oh," he called me strong-willed. He said, "I play, because I'm unduly proud of that. I played him a little bit of my guitar playing that I actually put up on YouTube, and because he plays guitar, and see, that's what I've always wanted, and I've never understood. Is I've had two friends for 30 years that I've just wanted to sit and play guitar with. Never happens because um, they won't learn the fretboard, so there's no way for me to communicate with them. We're not musicians, so we don't have a musical ear where somebody plays a note and then you can recognize it. We're not talented. The one guy is talented, very talented as far as technical ability, but he's not got the ear talent. So if you don't have the ear talent, and you need another way to communicate what notes you're playing, and that is to know the notes on the fretboard, where they are, and like, I'm playing an E pentatonic minor scale, and you have to learn music a different way. Stevie Ray Vaughan said he didn't even know what tablature means. There's musical notation, the little things with the flags and what I'm talking about. That's musical notation. But they made something up for us retarded guitar players called tablature, which it just has the first string, the second string. It has like 6 lines for the strings, and then it has a number where you put your finger, you know. So it'll be like first string, 3rd fret. It won't be a G if you were tuned in E. You know, it wouldn't be like that flag telling you, because the flag also tells you the duration. With notation, I'm getting too technical here. With notation, all you get is, you don't get how long to sound the note, you get just where to put your fingers. So Steve Ray Vaughan, because he was naturally gifted and talented, he said, "I don't even know what tablature means." He said, "I can't read music." So when he worked with David Bowie on the song Let's Dance, he played the guitar parts on there. He was fascinated by David Bowie's musical knowledge, and because he probably went. I don't know much about David Bowie's uh, musical knowledge. I just read that article, but he was fascinated by. He's like um, I don't even know what tablature means, but he was the guy playing the guitar for a song that, from somebody who probably went to a Juilliard type of situation, or went to some had musical training and probably could read music and all that shit. Point being, that's why I talk to my caseworker about guitars, because that's what I've always wanted and could never get out of. And I have two people that were supposed to be my friends that for 30 years, and I could never get them to. They act like they thought it was silly, or actually made fun of me behind my back. The idea of knowing the notes on the fretboard. You have to. If you can't hear music, if you don't have a good musical ear, you have to know the notes. So even though I don't have a good musical ear, I can still write on guitar because I know a little bit about music. And you only need to know a little bit. You only need to know the basics. I wish I knew more. Especially chords. I wish I could do more things chordally. Um, but anyways, I wasted too much time talking to the caseworker about that, because I thought I said, "How much time we got?" And he would be like, "Well, he was asking me about how complicated some of these stories are, even with my style of, let's say I have a Baroque ornate style of speech. Even when I'm trying to be succinct, the stories are complicated. Like, how'd you break your toe? Okay. How I broke my toe. You know how I broke my toes. This guy over here called the landlord, blah, blah, blah. It's a long story, and there's 5 minutes of my appointment gone. So I was like, I kicked a radiator. I didn't do it on purpose, though. I didn't kick at it out of anger. And then he'd ask me another question. I'm like, that story is too long. I was like, how much time do we have? And he's like, no, just go ahead and talk. And I'm like, no, we don't have enough time. But I did waste time um, talking guitar, because that is something that I miss, is playing guitar and writing on, especially writing on guitar. I played him a couple of recordings of things that I had written, short things, or they weren't short things, but I would just play a piece of it and I would be like, yeah, you get the gist. And even the reasons why I play left-handed and I have technical problems are 10-minute stories, even stripped down to the bare minimum, just because life's complicated. Oh, coffee, why do you make me talk so much? But yeah, as far as like the benzos, when I asked my doctor if he knew who Heather Ashton was, and he said no, I'm like, I'm fucked, you know, because somebody gave me advice. I think Zap321. I can't remember their name. Somebody gave me advice, like show it to your doctor, and I'm like, well, he's not gonna read a whole fucking manual. So I just printed out a page that was like how the withdrawal step down process works. I don't remember what page of the manual it was, but I like handed it to him, and he just glanced at it and handed it back to me and said he didn't know who Heather Ashton was. And I'm like, okay, you're giving me benzodiazepines and you don't know who Heather Ashton is, and you drop people off 50% off of their prescription, because he's probably had that experience before where he just dropped them off completely, and he had like hysterical people coming in there like, I'm losing my goddamn mind, or just coming in there like not even knowing who they were and whatever. And he's like, oh, that's not good. I better not, you better reduce that to just a mere funk of seasickness and foggy headedness. you know it's like do the research on the fucking drugs that you're giving people. But I left that piece of paper deliberately like on the counter, like I did it by accident. That's bad English. um but like, how in the bathroom exam office they got the sink, I just left it on the counter just in case somebody might have saw it. The next time I went in there is when I had my productive conversation where I was like, we both know I have anxiety, right? One of the parts of that makes anxiety worse is not knowing what's going to happen in the future, right? Like, well, I just want to know what the plan is here with this Xanax stuff. He was like, no, I'll never drop you off of those completely. And then the funny part to me is like later on, he reminds me, he's like, it was your idea to withdraw off of benzos. I'm like, are you shitting me? Seriously, are you shitting me? I had that idea in my head in February of 2018, but I never shared it with the motherfucker. He just up and reduced. My idea, right? It's my idea to get reduced from 60 pills to 30 pills and to lay in bed staring at a plant, sicker than fuck, not being able to eat and lose 12 pounds. Somehow I don't think that was my idea. But That's why I did not trust the guy to ask him for volume. I did not trust the guy that he wasn't going to drop me off. That's why I was like, stockpile. You got to stockpile. Because you got to. I mean, um, and I had you know how few people, I make enough, I guess I make too many comments of my own to get comments on my videos and I don't have enough viewers. But I did have somebody comment on there that they had that fear that I had of being just dropped off, you know, and they were on 2 milligrams a day of Klonopin for a long period of time. And I guess I can be exact. Do you care, person, if you're watching this, if I be exact with the details of what you've written publicly? Very good. I'm telling you, grass doesn't grow on that busy street. But it was 2 milligrams of Klonopin a day for 30 years. And they're being afraid it dropped off. If being if they get dropped off, you know, that's twice of what I was taking with Xanax, which is about equal power as Klonopin, but Klonopin stays in your system a little longer. But that's not going to help you if you get dropped off. You got to have that step down benzo. So I directed her to the video of mine where I explained how I found somebody that knew who Heather Ashton was, understood the step down process, and got put on volume, and just felt like so much better. I feel so much better, even though I was rough this morning. So much better than when I was taking Xanax. So the overall point to that, before I went this way and that way, as I wandered through the Gestalten forest that is my mind, is like my doctor. I lived in fear of that guy. I was afraid of him. You know, you shouldn't have to be afraid of your doctor because I'm gonna tie it in with the Joker, man. Your doctor is a fucking agent of chaos and anarchy and unpredictability. You know, that's what the point that Heather Ashton is making in her video is like the best results happen when the patient controls his own taper. The patient is the one feeling the symptoms. They know what they can take. They know what they can't take. It's their fucking life. You know, they know there's the stress that they're under. I'm actually making a red mark on my hand by making my Hitler-like gestures. But they know what they can take. They know, you know, they know if they got difficult family circumstances. They know if they got, you know, the patient should be in control of his own taper. You shouldn't have a doctor saying, I think you're ready to handle this much. I think you're ready to handle this much. Another point in the 3-minute 34 second segment of the Heather Ashton thing is like, if things do get rough in your life, it's okay to level off on your taper, like to take a rest from your taper for, I think she said like 2 or 3 weeks. There's nothing wrong with that. Just don't go up. You know, if you're tapering and you're like, okay, I'm gonna have to like just hang at this. I can't handle any more than this. And I mean, because you make a schedule. That's her deal. Is like you make a schedule and you take this much for 3 to 6 weeks until you feel ready to taper, and then until you feel ready. It's basically the whole thing is until you feel ready. But if you're under the power of a doctor who's like, I swear to God, the dude was like, this was your idea to withdraw off of Xanax anyway. And I'm like, yeah, it was my idea. Sure, pal. You know, you just want to shake the guy like a little rag doll and say like, yeah, it was my idea. Do you remember when I walked in here and I weighed 185, and the next time you saw me, I weighed 173? I lost those 12 pounds because I had a scale then. I lost those 12 pounds in 2 weeks because I couldn't eat nothing but yogurt and lay in bed. That wasn't my idea, you know. This whole thing was handled so badly by me through my ignorance and by my doctor and his ignorance, you know. I mean, and my fear of him because I felt like I couldn't talk to him. You know, I felt like it was dangerous. It's like I would actually have higher pulse rates and higher blood pressure when I would go into my doctor's office because I'm like, what I could say here or what I do here, you know, could have a very negative effect on my life. You know, it's like an audition when you're broke. It's like it was like going for an audition when you're broke and you want that part. You want that part of playing a sane human being that's not suffering miserably. So that's what you're auditioning for: sanity and lack of suffering. That's what I felt like when I would go into my doctor. And yeah, it just, man. And then, of course, the non-benzo people, they don't get it. The people in your life, the best you can hope for is they're like what with my best friend's deal is like. Um, he's like, "How are you doing with that?" You know, he'll ask me questions about it, and you know, instead of like, I have people say, "I told you so," you know. And it's like, I don't remember you telling me so, but even if you did tell me so, saying I told you so to somebody suffering through benzo withdrawal, not very nice. And that's your loved ones. And I'm like, yeah, okay, you need to work on your own sobriety with your I told you so's. That's why I said in one video, like, if you got somebody that's supportive, man, don't take them for granted. And the cop friend, my cop friend, he wasn't really like, you know, he's not, has no experience in that area. He just recognized the fact that I was going through something difficult because he knows me well enough to know how well I take suffering, and he knows my life. And he knows me, so he knows if I'm bitching about something, if I'm stating like, man, I'm pretty freaking miserable, he's like, oh yeah, this guy's miserable, you know. So he kind of like let me, again, let's get back to the validation of people allowing you to have your own feelings and recognizing them as valid. He was like, yeah, if this guy says that he's miserable, he's miserable. You know, like, he wasn't saying, oh, you're not that miserable. Or like, that's what I remember my dad, like, was putting on my sock when I was incapacitated. My dad, the killer, the doler out of many beatings, cuttings, and pain, and I'm incapacitated in bed after having spinal surgery, and he's putting on my socks, filling in for my mom as a nurse maid to me. And I got like, I'm in a back brace, so I can't reach my feet. So I got this guy putting on my socks on my hypersensitive, painful feet, and he was like, "Oh, that didn't hurt that bad." He'd tell you stuff like that. He's like, he was so, yeah, but yeah, that's not a position anybody wanted to be in. Is at the mercy of my father's gentleness. Yeah, but I remember that. You know, it's like people telling you how to feel or what you feel. He's like, "Oh, that wasn't that bad." 'Cause I was like, and he put on my sock roughly, and on my hypersensitive, damaged CRPS inflicted foot, and Oh, that's not that bad. Oh, he's just a slumlord. Oh, um, but what have these people actually done to you? Uh, all that stuff about people like questioning your emotions, gaslighting your emotions. Like, I feel what I feel, motherfucker. If you don't like it, that's too goddamn bad. And that's, like I jumped all over that guy on the phone about the Justice Slumlord, and I'm like, you, I was like, you don't even know what you're talking about. And I said word for word. And it's like, this guy is a freaking monster. It just, as slumlords ruin people's lives. He's got over 30 properties. It's like my story's probably been repeated over and over again. And I've watched good people suffer in this building. They just get up and move. But, I mean, moving is goddamn inconvenient. We had people that cared about living here and that wanted to make this a nice place. And I like the fact that, the one had like C cup titties that stood up, and the other one was like a 6 foot tall Amazon, like 27-year-old girl. I liked having that eye candy around there. That was nice. But they also cared about the place. They would actually wash down the front of the building with the buckets and soap bars, wash the windows, hang up plants, do those things that women do to make a place seem homey. They wanted to live here, and my landlord wouldn't allow them the ability to wash their own cars by turning on the hose because he had locked the basement door. He had to go in the basement to turn on the hose to the outside water, and that made no sense to me. It's like you have good tenants, but you're such a you know then at the time that made no sense to me, but then I began to understand the man's psychology where, like, I've of course told all these stories before, but I'm tying them together in a different way. Is like was spending money roofing the building that he owned, and he knocked out my satellite dish and my TV and uh, Roy's TV simultaneously because there was too many satellite dishes. There's 4 apartments and there's like 6 satellite dishes on the roof because the companies just leave them up there. So he's like, take down any extra satellite dishes. So they took down the wrong ones. They knocked out our TVs, and I called my company, and they're like, there's $120 service charge uh, anytime one of our guys gets on a ladder or whatever. So I told the landlord, and the landlord's like, I'm not paying all that. He said, I just paid $10,000 to get the roof done. And I'm like, dude, you own the fucking building. That is your job as a landlord. I'm thinking to myself, and that gave me a clue into his psychology. And then I was like, you know what? Just to keep, this is a long time ago now, just to keep the peace, um, I'll pay half of it. I don't want no fights with the guy. It is cheap living here. Just to keep on good terms with him. So when it comes times to pay the rent, he said, I decided just to, he didn't have a leg to stand on, because he hired the guys. The guys knocked out my TV. He's responsible for the $120. But he's like, you know what? I just decided just to pay the whole $120. And in my head, I'm thinking, oh, gee, thanks for, paying for what you're responsible for, and not trying to get in my pocket just over $60, because he's like, I'll pay some of it, but I won't pay all of it. You know, and it's like that was a real window into his psychology. But but think about those people, the beautiful woman with the C cup titties and the Amazon woman that I like. I like them living here. I like to look at beautiful women. And I was like, what's the odds of that, man? I used to actually sit out in the watch TV, and of course watch people walk up and down the street. And I'm like, man, there is a serious dearth of good-looking women in this neighborhood, and to have two of them move into a 4-unit building, I was like jackpot, and they wanted to live here, and then this guy turns them away. But look at it from their point of view. They wanted to make this place like homey and like feel comfortable here and enjoy living here. And they got the inconvenience. They had to move somewhere else. Moving is a pain in the ass because they just, they weren't even allowed to wash their cars. Like, just because this guy is so damn cheap that he won't even pay for $60 for satellite dishes that people that he hired knocked out. So when my brother says just a slumlord, I'm like, you have no idea what you're talking about, because he's never rented. And he lives in a house. And it's like you're just being dismissive of my feelings and dismissive of all the shit that I've been telling you that you apparently have not been listening to over the last 7 years of what this guy is like and why he needs. I think I said that to him. I said, really, he needs taken out into an alley and have his kneecaps broken. But anyways, I'm just doing the machine gun mouth thing. I have to go to the both of the psychiatric nurse who prescribes the Valium and my primary caregiver, the nut job who reduced me by 50% and said that it was my idea. On the 6th and the 7th, I don't know which is which, but I know they're afternoon appointments, and I'm, not stressing about it either way. I am stressing about moving here out of here and how that's going to be accomplished, though, because it's like I do have money, but I barely have enough money to move. But it's almost like I have to grease some. It's just going to be really hard to go apartment shopping. Just as hard as it is for me to do any kind of transportation. Even walking through my apartment is like walking through a jungle. As far as like danger, it's like, oh, almost fell there. Yeah, almost bashed my head on the coffee table there. So, and then that's what stresses me out is like I don't have anybody at my beck and call to like, yeah, I got an appointment at like 1 a.m. to meet the landlord and look at this property. So, he's like, how do you feel about living in North Canton? And I'm like I can't wrap my head around whatever, I don't know. I just have to chill and let it play out how it's going to play out. And a little contact with my neighbors, war vet, crackheads, sicko in the wheelchair, and especially the landlord, a little contact with him as possible. And it'll get done. It was really bad timing for me to get sick after having all that tooth devastation to deal with. And yeah. And while I'm talking about, I don't know how interesting this is to people, or how interesting anything I say is to people, but unless it's about benzos, because I know that that is why I have an audience. You just don't randomly start rambling on YouTube if you're not good looking and you're laying in bed reminding people of the Grim Reaper, reminding them of the specter of their own demise. Anyways, as far as the temporaries they put in, it's like there's a huge space behind them. I'm like, I hope by 10. He said not to chew on them, but I don't really have no place to chew. because like that's what was bad about losing this molar down here, where they didn't give me any pain pills. And I showed that to my care source manager, and I'm like here's a video. It's like I'm in so much pain. It's like I'm on some kind of heavy medication. Like I'm doped out of my mind, but really I'm just loopy from pain. And she was like, "Oh my God, they didn't," because I described they pulled like the molar right next to the wisdom tooth. She's like, "Oh my God, they didn't give you anything?" And I'm like, "Zero." She looked at me skeptically, and I was like, "You dumb bitch." But she looked at me skeptically when I said, "You can't get decent dental care when you're poor." And then I explained to her how it works. It's like you can go to a decent dentist until they build up a practice where they got people with better insurance that are willing to spend more on their teeth. And once they build up their practice, then they kick all the poor slobs like me to the curb, and they're like, "We no longer take your insurance." And then you go to another dentist. I had good dentists there for a little while, like I said before, and they were like, "We no longer take your insurance." I've heard that phrase a couple of times. And you'll call. I got like a dentist that would have been cool, like 2 blocks away, that I could at the time literally walk to, and I wasn't even walking that good. I was walking with a cane. They're literally like, you walk across my street and across a church parking lot, and there's a dentist office right there. So, of course, when I called them and they were like, "Oh, we don't take your insurance," I'm like, "Figures." With my aforementioned transportation problems, that would have been ideal. So, thematically, this video is a mess. Um, but I wanted to steer people toward that link. I might even put that ignore the chattering naked ape, and just click on the link and put benzo in the title. I thought about like the people that there's people that are taking like Xanax and Ambien, Klonopin, and your whole uh, murderer's row, um, rogues gallery of benzodiazepines, and do not know that they fall or they're all categorized as benzodiazepines. So I thought, like, maybe put that in the tagline, different benzos, or you can't jam it all in the title, because when I was taking Xanax. I didn't know I was taking a benzodiazepine, and they're a class of drugs, and I didn't know anything about it. If I did, of course, you would have never met me. Um, so let's see, how long have I been chattering? Let me take a guess. 57 minutes and 31 seconds. An hour and 18 minutes and 3 seconds. Yeah, I do have a problem. I have a problem. I got to go to Gabbers Anonymous. Um, yeah, but you see, this is I'm a limited edition, because there's not a whole lot else I can do. If I can get my knee back online, I still do videos. I enjoy talking to people, and I would never leave people hanging as far as my story. And if you're gonna share in my misery, you got the right to share in my triumph when I am off of benzos, which is a win. I got it today. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna look for my pill cutter, and you know, I'm prescribed 3 uh, volume pills a day. I'm down to 2, completely comfortable at 2. So I'm thinking of cutting a 10 milligram pill into a 5 milligram pill in the mornings, and taking 15 milligrams of Valium a day, and then hang at that for a while like you're supposed to. See what that feels like. And then cut the nightly pill, and then I'm down to 10 milligrams. And then, you know, the moving thing, we'll keep that a separate issue. Because I said, like, I got really, garbage truck, I got really, frustrated with all the shit that was raining down on top of me and me having an umbrella with holes in it, which would be my support system in that metaphor. So I was like, I'm done. I'm not tapering anymore. I'm not even paying attention to what I'm taking, you know. And then, like I said, December, I was like, I got a lot of pills in this bottle, and I counted them out, and I was 17 pills ahead, and I started tapering subconsciously just by not taking them unless I felt like I needed them. And I realized part of that was is I reduced a lot of my stress just by not being around people. Like isolation obviously causes diarrhea of the mouth, but it also reduces a great deal of stress because hell is other people. You're not dealing with other people and their issues. You're not having your emotions gaslighted. You're not having people minimizing your suffering. You don't have the aggravation of other people. So I was just taking them as I was needing them in my isolation, and I was finding out that I was needing them less. I'm like, well, if I'm already tapering, I might as well start tapering because I hadn't planned on doing that until I moved out of here because I'm like, this place is impossible. It's impossible to quit benzos here, but it's not impossible to taper here, you know. So that's what I do now is, in about an hour or so, I'll take a morning dose, and then I don't take it. I don't take it to sleep, but I've been taking it anywhere from 6 to 10 p.m. I'm on a normal sleeping schedule where I go to sleep a decent hour and I wake up no later than 8 o'clock in the morning, which is very important for me, and which got totally destroyed December 5th when I got sick. And I was sick all the way until December 24th, and then there's a video December 26th where I'm like, this is the first day where I did not feel at some point in the day sick. 24th is when it really was like, okay, I'm starting to get better. And, better to me being a relative term. Better to me is a living hell for you. So, but yeah, I just have CRPS. I mean, I'm used to that though. Took me a few years to get used to that for the screaming to stop, but, yeah, for the inner screaming at least to stop. If I would have done more screaming, maybe I would have got treated sooner for it. But I was like, hey man, as a 18-year-old, I was like, something's not right, man. It feels like my legs are all burning and stuff. And they're like, oh, normal post-operative discomfort because you're not crying and screaming. You can't be in that bad of pain. Meanwhile, CRPS is the highest rated pain generating disease as far as the pain itself. What to do with my day? See, that's the problem I have now is like what to do with my day, you know? I would fill up my day with physical activity, exercise. Um, Kind of hard to do with a knee like this and two broken toes. Though the toes are. That's not. That actually irked me, by the way, while I am interrupting myself. Is like I said, I got two broken toes, and the case manager lady that was uncomfortable with me mentioning her Xanax use burst out laughing like it was a joke, and I'm like, oh. She says, I've had I got three broken toes, is what she had. And I thought she meant she had them currently, which would give her the right to laugh at broken toes. Because it would be a funny coincidence. I have 2 broken toes. You have 3 broken toes. But her toes are all healed and in the past. And she's laughing at me having 2 broken toes. Because when she got there, I was taping them up with a band-aid because she was running late and I didn't know when she was going to show up. And I was like, I got to tape them up with a band-aid. Tape those 2 toes together. And I told her that's how that came up. And I felt like that made me mad. It's like, why are you laughing at my suffering? Why is my care source manager laughing at the idea of broken toes? It's like, the motherfucker's hurt. Why are you laughing at my pain? So I was like, a lot of times, like, believe it or not, since I've been talking for over an hour and 20 minutes, I keep these things to myself. But this isn't like ordinary life. You're going to hear a guy talk and talk and talk and talk. But I just keep the things to myself that don't make any sense because I get, like, I get logic blocked all the time. Like, stuff doesn't make any sense. It's like, I don't like call people on stuff. I don't want constant fights and friction in my life because your average person is illogical, irrational, and makes no goddamn sense. That has been my experience in life. But, so most of the time, like, I don't like, I'm not like, what are you laughing at? What's funny about broken toes? Those things hurt. Your toes are healed. Are your toes hurting right now? Then shut the fuck up. Quit laughing. It's not funny. My pain's not funny. Next. And that shit's counterproductive anyway. You know what I mean? It's like, being honest. Like, hey, Mr. Police Officer, how about like breathing that way with your fucking onion and garlic breath, okay? My nose hairs are actually falling out. You can't even like politely say like, dude, you got bad breath, man. Just would you ever want to do that to a cop? So a lot of times you have to be quiet because it's not in your best interest to be honest with people. You have to eat and say whatever you want to say. You know, it's just the way the world works. It's the way people work. Um, that thing with my brother. Uh, now, see, I was trying to keep his name out of it, but where he was like just a slumlord when he's never rented off a slumlord, knows nothing about it. I was like, you don't know what you're talking about, And I'm like, you're just like everybody else. And he's like, I'm not like everybody else. I'm like, yeah, you are. You're like playing devil's advocate, you know, and trying to minimize, the way my feelings. Like I shouldn't hate this guy as much as I hate this guy. Then he was like, oh no, it's just I know what it's like to hate and how bad that is for you. And then threw in, of course, I don't like to see somebody. What did he say exactly? I don't like to see somebody I care about, you know, hate like that or whatever. I'm like, yeah, okay. I watched you hate on a person I didn't hate for years, but I never invalidated your feelings by saying, "Oh, he's just a maniac." What are you hating him for? You know, your hate's not valid. That shit drives me crazy. Why aren't there more sensible, logical people like me out there in the world? I don't know. I guess because the world doesn't work like that. I don't know. I guess because people don't have time for introspection because they have to I don't know, make a living. I got a job to go to. I don't know. I don't. I've got no explanation for that. It's like so. A lot of times I don't I don't engage. It's like not. It's like I'm not going there. I'm not going there. I know where it's gonna go. It's gonna go into some illogical place. And it's gonna turn into a stupid fucking argument where they're clearly wrong and I'm right, and you know, there's always the off chance that I could be wrong and they could be right, but not likely. But it has happened, and I will admit when it does happen. I even made a whole video about that. Am I the crazy one or are they the crazy one? Like, how can you tell? It's like, and that got a lot of views because, again, people care about themselves, and it had the word benzo in the title. I was like, am I crazy or benzo withdrawing around wackiness? I think was the title of the video, and it got like 3 or 4 times more views than I usually get because, you know, it's something that people like that are going through benzo withdrawal would be attracted to, and there it's about them. And like that's like people like to think of themselves as not selfish and you know not really uh, not really absorbed with themselves, and like they like to think better of themselves than they actually are. But I'll be the first to admit that I care about me more than I care about you. All right. Why the hell else would I be entertaining myself in this fashion? Um, and people don't, I guess, don't like to be honest about that. But of course, it only makes sense. It's like that everything in life, damn near, is dictated by survival. And I think a guy wrote a book about it called The Selfish Gene. It's like, yeah, of course, everybody cares about themselves. That's uh, it's just in our DNA, and uh, that's just part of survival. You know, like I have like that self-destructive streak in me where I'll be like, you can have this, or I give stuff away all the time. You know, that's just a part of psychological issues that I have with masochism and self-destructiveness. Um, you know, that's not normal behavior. And if I want to widen the scope of this, that's why a lot of people have problems with Christianity. And there's like Christianity is not masochism. I think I even made a video titled that. But it's like if you look at the Gospels, it's like Jesus is telling you to give away all your shit and you know just totally embrace selflessness. If your brother asks you to walk a mile with him, walk two, that kind of stuff. If he asks you for your cloak, give him your hat as well, to paraphrase, and you know that kind of stuff. So I was raised like with a heavy Christian ethic, so I'm not like material possessions don't mean all that much to me. Though I do wish I had a coffee mug and was not drinking out of this thing. But regardless, you know, it's like that standard set where he took the character in the Gospels, and I'll call him a character. I believe Jesus existed, and I believed he was a man and a good man. Um, I'll call him a character because that's where we know him from is from a book. But the guy in the book gave away everything, including his life. You know, so there are no true living Christians out there. There's there's just people that follow the Christian ethic. Because if you were really a follower of Christ, you'd be Peter turned upside down in the Roman Colosseum and set on fire or whatever they did to him. I know they flipped him upside down. I mean, you would Martin Luther King. There was a Christian. He took it to the level where he made the bad people kill him, and he gave everything, including his life. And he knew what he was doing. I may not get there with you. He knew his days were numbered. There's too many. He was pissing off too many people. But anyways, uh, so what do we got here in this mess? Uh, this verbal barrage here. We got some stuff about benzodiazepines. We got stuff about gaslighting emotions. We got stuff about how everybody really cares about themselves, and it's nice to pretend that you care about the other guy more than you care about yourself. But if you're honest, you care about yourself more than you care about other people. The fact that you care about other people does not negate the fact that you care about yourself more. Even the best of us, and I am far from the best of us, but even the best of us um, uh, care about ourselves more than we care about other people. Those of us who are living and who haven't Martin Luther King'd ourselves and taken it to that level, and you know, anyways, there's never any end to the machinations of my twisted mind. So, ugh. But yeah, like I said, I'm a limited edition type of dude. Anyways, because you did not really meet me until 2018, and yeah, benzo desperation drove me on here, and so once I get off of the benzos and once I can walk, that's an iffy thing. I don't know if I'll ever be able to walk right again. Once I get off of the benzos, I will be able to occupy myself because I'll have the patience. Uh, you know, I'm just saying these things. Hopefully, I don't know if. I know I will be off of benzos. I don't know how long it will be until I have the patience to pursue my hobbies of writing music and working on my books and you know working on hobbies. It doesn't take patience for me to run on here or to get on here and run my mouth. It's the opposite of patience. You know, I did talk some about also about doctors and what they freaking do to us benzo patients and how criminal it is and how crazy my own doctor was. This was your idea. And yeah, that's the thing, man. It's like going through benzo withdrawal. It's like, man, you do not want to get your emotions fucked with. And that's just what, and you realize that these people have been doing this kind of shit all along. But you just got that armor built up on you that benzos strip away. Where you're like, yeah, okay, that's just them. That's just them. That's just how they behave. And with me, it was like water off a duck's back. Wasn't so much armor. It was just like, it's just them being them. I put up with all kind of stuff. Even when I was living here, because I didn't get into the benzo dependence until this guy was already having like ridiculous people living here. I just would kind of roll with it to a point. You know, we had the people upstairs that were either loudly fucking or fighting. That's the two things they did, and they both did them. Like, it was hard to tell which one they were louder at, I always say, and then I put up with that and just laughed that off for a while. And then reached a point where I got them kicked out, and then like the hood people, we actually, I don't know if I chronicled this on here or not, but that was I don't know how many years ago that was, but we actually had like a tenant meeting with the landlord there, and I was the first guy to speak at the tenant meeting, and yeah, those people would like be out on the porch, drinking and carrying on, and my living room is like right on the porch with three windows, and I'd have to keep them shut in the summertime, just without air conditioning, because I could hear them through the windows, let alone with the windows open, and they would actually um, try to talk to me while I'm in my house, minding my own goddamn business, watching TV, and I'm like, I can remember one incident where like I had the windows open and then they assembled on the porch while I was lifting weights, and I was um, cooking bacon, and the smell was getting out to them, and they were like, "Hey, somebody's cooking something good in there. I can smell that bacon," you know, and what kind of manners is that? Or like one time I'm actually lifting weights and they're trying to have a conversation with me, and I'm like, "Listen, I'm trying to fucking lift some weights in here. Will you leave me alone?" So I just started shutting the windows. But I was amused by their uncouthness and their weird behavior to a point. Um, and then it got old. But right now it wouldn't be too with the benzo thing being like I wasn't withdrawing then. I think is what it was. So it was just like I just rolled with it. I don't even know if I was on benzos at the time when the hood people were here. I knew I had a bad knee because I can remember that part of it. I don't know, how how deep in the benzo waters I was at that point. But the point being is I could laugh stuff off or ridiculous behavior, like somebody actually uh, calling in your window, saying that's your neighbor, saying, "Hey man, somebody's cooking in there. Somebody's cooking something good in there." Trying to like, why are you fucking disrupting my day? If I wanted to talk to you, I would go out on the porch and fucking talk to you. The ridiculousness of that. Or like I'm actually lifting weights, trying to concentrate on not hurting myself, and they're trying to carry on a conversation with me through the window, and I'm like, hey, I'm fucking trying to lift weights here, trying to concentrate on that. Okay, can you not talk to me? Um, just be able to laugh that stuff off. But it's very difficult to tie all this nonsense together, and don't know why you would even want to try. But sometimes I try to, um, even with these crazy detours I take, I try to have like a general theme or line to it. Um, but yeah, if you go on a long car ride, that's the fun of it. Is the sightseeing, the little side adventures on the way, and the creepy guy at the rest stop uh, that you're looking at with your buddy, and you're like speculating on how many people he's put in the ground. It's like, is he like, or I remember one time we got a detour on a trip where we ended up in West Virginia. I was talking about this the other day, and I'm like, the West Virginia accent in the eastern part of the United States is the most hard. It's the most radical accent there is, a true West Virginian accent, and all we had to do was take a straight shot down I-95 south to Florida, and my brother-in-law invited his new girlfriend on a trip that we had planned that was supposed to be a fishing trip, and just like, oh, she's coming too, and I'm like, what? It's too late to cancel plans and everything. It's like it's one of the many 7 times 70 sins uh, that I had to forgive him for before my forgiveness ran out. But anyway, she's driving. She's tailgating a truck, semi, and so we don't see the sign. She's just blindly following the semi, and the semi takes an off ramp into some bumfuck Egypt, little West Virginia town. That literally, this town was so small. I talked to some of the people in the town that like the gas station was like the main hangout, but there was a gas station, there was a laundromat, there was a restaurant, there was one other thing in this place, and they called it a town. But everybody hung out at this gas station. I was like, why are there so many people at this gas station? It's like, because they didn't really have any other place where they could hang out, you know. So we end up at this gas station, and there's like 30 people at this gas station. And, you know, I'm talking about, you know, inside the store area and stuff like that. So we're lost, you know. I don't remember the name of the town, but I was like, can you give us directions so we can get back on the main freeway? And I listened to the guy talk about 3 times. And then I was like, okay, I got it. And I didn't understand a damn word he said. And, you know, Ohio is here and West Virginia is here. It's like, why is the accent so different that I can't understand you? So I go and I ask somebody else for directions on how to get back on the main road. And I can't understand them either. And I'm like, okay. You know, because after a while I'm like, I got it. All right, got it. And I'm like, we're just going to have to figure this out ourselves because these people speak a foreign language. They may only live they may speak English or some form of it, and they may only live like, I don't know, 120 miles away from us. But I can't understand a word that they're saying. There's like, maybe it's because of isolation, because in evolutionary theory, isolation breeds radical speciation. That's why Australia, because it's a big island, has the most venomous creatures in the world, and some of the oddest creatures in the world is because of that isolation. Maybe it's the isolated communities, the accent and the lingo starts to evolve into something entirely different that you cannot understand. But yeah, it was like being in a Twilight Zone episode or something like that. I'm like, what? I never was in any place like that. And I did talk to one person I could vaguely understand. They we got a gas station, we got the laundromat, and we got this. He named off about 4 or 5 buildings. He said, and that is it. You know, I don't remember asking him how many people were in the town. I don't remember asking him what the name of the town was. I just wanted to get the hell out of there and get back on the main road. And that was his dumbass, my foster brother's dumbass little pixie girlfriend who was actually 4'7". I always say she's 4'9", but she was only 4'7" and had feet that big. And um, that was her fault for tailgating that truck, because you tailgate a truck, you can't see the overhead signs that say, you know, like, you can't see the exit signs and stuff because you're in a little car and all you're seeing is the back of a truck. So by the time you see the exit sign, it's too late. You're already going off into BF Egypt. And anyways, I think I'm about done talking. I mean, I hope you found this entertaining or distracting or just a way to kill an hour and 30 minutes. And not too insulting. I don't try to be insulting when saying that people care about themselves, and you know, I mean, maybe I'm gaslighting you and your personality. I don't know, but that's just my experience of the human race in general. Is like it's Jungian, as the link that I'll put in there, that you have like a darker self within yourself, um, that society may or might not accept. So you kind of like keep that on the DL. Like, you don't say, you got onion breath, cop. How about not breathing it in my face? You know, that's, you got that other self. I think Carl Jung called the dark self. I had read some Jung before that, and I found it a bit disturbing. So I think that's why I quit reading it. Back when I used to study, I didn't get to go to college, and I didn't really get to go to high school. So I used to do my own reading and my own studies about things that I was interested in. One of them being human psychology. So if I'm gaslighting you, I am sorry. And if I am messing with your perceptions of yourself, and you're like, I am a selfless human being, and I care about other people more than I care about myself, I apologize for that. Because there probably are people in the world that exist like that. I just haven't met any. And on that note, you know, I will shut the hell up and leave you to it. And I'll rewatch this, and I just hope to God that it's entertaining and not just an example of another annoying gas bag. This will be one of those videos that gets around 30 views tops. Um, I think I'll do now that I'm thinking about it, I'm going to do a non-scary length thing. It's makes more sense about the benzodiazepine Heather Ashton link, where it's actually Heather Ashton talking. I will put those links on this video, but I'll put it on another video where it's not of a scary length to people, and direct them toward that, because in a this is a different age. I notice this with young people; they don't have attention spans, and this is three. That's another thing that benzos will mess with is your attention span. 3 minutes and 34 seconds, and everything in it is important. And it's Heather Ashton speaking herself. And there's other videos of her, of course, speaking on here. And it only had like 117,000 views, which I expected it to have a lot more than that. But it's pretty much everything you need to know about benzo withdrawal. And I will make a separate video of that, and make it not about me, but just about that, and make it nice and short, because I'm like that too. Of course, I find myself infinitely fascinating, but I'm like that too. I mean, I'll listen to somebody talk, and if they don't have an interesting voice, or they're not a woman with a beautiful face, it's like I get bored pretty quickly. And even if it is a woman with a beautiful face and they have an annoying voice and talk really quickly, I'm out of there pretty quick. So, I understand the whole 30 views things. But these are limited edition, these hour plus videos. Because I just can't do a whole hell of a lot else but run my ever fucking gob. I've been watching a lot of British TV. I especially like the expression "check the boot" for the trunk of a car in England. That's the boot of your car. So, I think I heard that in something English that somebody said, "Shut your ever fucking gob." So that stuck in my head. But anyways, again, hope this was entertaining or at least useful as a time killer. And as always, I wish you the best. The loyal few out there. I assure you that I won't just disappear and make you feel used. I will allow you to see me in all my triumphant glory. However many teeth I have left, however much sanity I have left, and say, aha, benzo free. I won't bail on it. I won't bail on you, is what I'm telling you. Goodbye.